Welcome to the At a Total Loss podcast, where lost moms candidly talk about their experiences with stillbirth that have left them at a total loss for words. It is through our stories that we hope to give you support, motivation, friendship, and maybe a laugh or two. But most importantly, we hope to give you light in the darkest moments of your life. I'm Catherine, a lost mom to my beautiful son Brody, who was born still at 36 weeks on January 18th, 2022. While trying to survive the sadness and find answers as to why he died, I found this community of incredible women willing to share their journey, experiences, and sometimes margaritas so that I didn't feel alone. They helped me survive, and I hope we can do the same for you. So grab some wine and some tissues as we navigate this awful world of stillbirths that has left us all at a total loss. It's just kind of like, all right, I'll see you later.
I've listened.
Oh, yeah?
Oh,
duh.
I know the drill. I'm like, I know the style.
You're like the only one. Every single time I've done this, I mean, no, that's not true. They've listened to a couple, but like you've probably listened to the most and know like kind of how this goes.
Yeah, it's kind of like my Bible lately. So
I'm so happy that it helps. I sometimes listen to it myself.
It's just like hanging out with your peeps, you know? Mm-hmm. And when I listen, I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm not the only person who feels like this all the time.
That's so true. I mean, I was just chatting with some stranger on the internet earlier. I'm like, I don't know this person. She knows my trauma. I know her trauma. She's a lost mom. At least I have to check to make sure, because I don't know if you know this, but there's fake lost moms on Instagram.
What?
It's pretty gross.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't. Someone was telling me that it's for attention. It's like a catfishing thing.
Oh.
And I've seen a couple where they like Photoshop other people's dead babies in their own arms. The birth story changes, like they keep ripping off someone's birth story. It's just, they're fake. And they use it for attention. And some of them, though, try to get money. Like, hey, we started this charity and can you donate?
Oh, my God.
It's so nasty. And there was this one lost mom that I know for a fact, her son died. She messaged me and she was like, you're not going to believe this. And she screenshots that, like, she posted something and it said the whole story of her baby. And then this person took it and reposted it word for word as her own death story on Facebook or on Instagram. And the girl was like, commented and was like, literally, you took this from my story on Facebook. I can't believe you did this. And then she got a bunch of people to report her, and Instagram was like, we don't see a problem here. So we were like, okay. So the girl like deleted the comment and just kept rolling on her business. Like, I don't know. We just have to be careful.
Disgusting.
It's pretty bad. It's bad, but we just have to be careful out there. And I will always have a conversation, but there's some pretty weird people out there that do stuff like that.
There are weird people. And that's, I mean,
like, we're weird, but like then there's others.
Well, we're weird for a reason. I guess they probably are too. I don't know. But that's one of the reasons I'm happy I'm not on social media.
I know. You have bypassed a lot of the interestingness of this life, because you go on and you're like, okay, when I post, who am I talking to here? Mm-hmm. I decided my audience is now lost mothers, parents whose baby died.
Yeah.
And so I post all the time about just how I feel, what I'm going through, my journey, whatever. It's kind of cathartic. It's kind of my thing. And which is crazy, because I was like the most private person before this. I'm sure you heard Dominique and I talked about that in an episode. But then people who like aren't lost parents and people from like my past will like kind of chime in. And it leaves me kind of like I'm okay. Half the time I'm joking around, and only like lost moms get it. Like I made a post about how horrible Halloween is this year, and you know, lost moms are like, oh my God, I hate it so much, you know, but nobody was like, are you okay? You need to process this and get through it. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. It just sucks, you know, like.
Yeah, you're like, sometimes it just sucks. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to fix me. Please, don't talk about what you don't know.
Seriously.
Love you, bye.
What were you like before Hugo?
Well, that's actually something I mourned along with him, is like, I was a very happy-go-lucky person, very outgoing. Like, I would say, not to toot my own horn, but I would go into a room and I could make people feel better by being there. Like, I would be like a little chameleon. I knew how to sort of show up how I needed. If somebody was sad, I would notice and I would like go up to them. You know, I was that person. And I like to laugh. I still do. I haven't changed in a lot of ways, but right after he died and was born, I was like, will I be the same person? Like, I missed myself. And I talked about that a lot right away. I was like, will I ever be able to laugh again? I looked at myself before him and I was like, people who were grieving and going through trauma must have hated me because I walked around like everything in the world was so great. You know, I just had like a positive outlook without really, I was never inauthentic about it because that bothers me. I hate fake positivity and fake people in general. But I just don't resonate with that. But yeah, I was really, really outgoing and positive most of the time. And just, I felt like my job was to be there for other people because I had a fairly privileged life before. I mean, I've had a lot of loss in my family, but I was always sort of a support person rather than the main person who was dealing with the loss. And so, yeah, it was really weird to turn into somebody who then I couldn't go about feeling happy every day. I just was like, no, I'm the person who everybody else needs to support. And I realized I could no longer please people. And so I've dropped that. I mean, I tried to drop that before. Like in my late 20s, that was sort of my mission, was to just stop trying to please other people.
Yeah, I think going into your 30s, it's like the one thing. You're like, oh, shit, I don't have to care anymore. Okay.
Yeah. You're like, I am me, deal with it. And so, but yeah, I really mourned that a lot. And I asked, because I have an aunt who lost a son at 1.5 years. He was 1.5 years old. And she told me, like, you will come back to yourself event. You'll laugh again. And I mean, we laughed immediately, my husband and I, together, because dark humor was like the only way. Like I'd be bawling and he'd come up to me and be like, what's wrong? Did something bad happen to you? And I would just crack up laughing. And I mean, right after we found out Hugo had died, we went to the hospital and, you know, we were out of our minds. And I had been to the hospital we went to before. So I was like, we got to pay for parking before we go in. Did you pay for parking? And he was like, oh, no, I didn't. I was like, let's go back and pay for parking because I don't want to do it on the way out. Like, I know we're not going to want to do it on the way out. So he goes back and pays for parking. And then he's like, oh, shit, I don't think I locked the car. And I was like, what's in there? And we look at each other and we're like, a car seat. And we kind of like, Jesus laugh, but it was so messed up at the same time. And we were just like, fuck it, leave it unlocked. Who cares?
Let someone take it. Please take it.
Yeah, take the car seat.
You and Adam are awesome. Like, you guys are so lucky to have each other in this whole entire ridiculous, horrible life that happens after loss. And now our husbands are BFFs.
Yeah.
So, like, we have a bajillion conversations. But, you know, something that I really liked about your relationship is that y'all know when you need to laugh about it and you know when you need to cry about it, which is so important because there's been so many times you've told me about Adam making you laugh with sarcasm or just being facetious over something that's clearly not funny, which is hilarious, which is weird. But, and then also, you know, you said the other day that you guys just put a song on in the car and cried because you knew you needed to let it out. And I think that's so important. What was y'all's relationship like before Hugo?
Well, we're high school sweethearts, so we've had a pretty, I mean, I guess that doesn't mean you have a strong relationship. But for us, we've been through a lot together. We were long distance for 6 years, and he got really, really sick when we were like 19 and almost died, so we went through that together. And so we've grown together in a lot of ways and really worked on our relationship. Some people will be like, oh, you have the perfect relationship. You're so lucky. I'm like, that's not luck, dude. That's hard work. You know? So we had a really good relationship. But I would say before Hugo, the main thing was Adam was not, he was really stressed out about having a baby. Really stressed out. And so we like were buying a house, a new car, and all this stuff. And he was really, really stressed about money and like getting his work done and just being ready to be a dad because honestly, we got pregnant fairly quickly, way more quickly than we expected. Yeah. And so he was like, oh, you know, and so I was stressed about him being stressed. And I basically tried to take on, this was my decision, I tried to take on all the pregnancy stuff so that he wouldn't have to deal with it because he was dealing with a lot of other stuff. And, you know, he makes more money than me. It's like unfortunate along gender lines. But so I was like, okay, I'm going to take on all the pregnancy stuff and not put any of that on him. I mean, near the end, Hugo was breech, and I found that out at 33 weeks. Yeah, I think. And so basically the last 6 weeks of my pregnancy, I was a nutcase. And so I did ask him to help me with a lot, and he was very amazing because I was going to acupuncture. I was going to the chiropractor. I was swimming at the rec center to try to turn him. I was going upside down on an ironing board through like the Spinning Babies workshop, or not workshop, exercises to turn a breech and stuff. I was like doing all these things. There was this one night where we were on our front porch and I was upside down on the little couch kind of thing we have out there. And he was like moxa-busting my toe as I'm like laying upside down outside. Like our neighbors walked by and I was like, hey, what's up? We're trying to turn a baby. And I would make him talk to my, like, basically my vulva area because I wanted Hugo to turn head down. So I would have him get like a toilet paper roll and talk through it.
Hilarious. Oh my God, that is so funny.
Yeah. Except he would sing this song. He would go like, come on down, baby, come on down. Come on down, baby, come on down. And Hugo would like not move at all. I was like, Adam, he hates this song. Well, actually, we didn't know Hugo was a boy. So I'd be like, the baby hates it. And then one day I was like, why don't you just talk to the baby about your day? So Adam's like, I'm really stressed, actually. Like, I had a really hard day. And Hugo's, like, moving a bunch. I'm like, yeah, Hugo is a wise soul. Like, let's not do the dumb baby song. Let's do, like, the real shit.
You should have been, like, reading Shakespeare to him.
Yeah.
And we've had this conversation so many times, but obviously I'm going to hear it again, and I want to hear it again. And you said that Hugo is an old soul.
Yeah.
And this topic keeps coming up. As a matter of fact, I heard it yesterday where was a chiropractor. He actually was like, do you think this was like this wasn't this wasn't his next life? Like, do you think that it just, whatever he was saying, he was alluding to the fact that there's multiple lives and that there's multiple experiences, and he's Christian faith as well. So he was just basically saying, there's a concept of that the soul gets a chance to come to earth, and sometimes it's not the right body or the soul for this particular situation. So they go back. I don't know. He was saying some stuff, but it was like resonating with the kind of things that you have talked about. And so I wanted you to have the chance to kind of give your kind of take on your connection with Hugo, your connection with the next baby, the connections that you've been talking about, and kind of how you got to that kind of realization.
Yeah.
Where that all started.
Okay. Well, it all started at the very beginning.
I knew you were going to try to sing on this. Hilarious.
I'm an actor. What can I say? Yeah, it basically, Adam and I had decided we were going to try to have kids February of 2021. Like, we had made that decision kind of over COVID. We took a lot of road trips during COVID, really long ones, like the deep COVID times. And we were like, okay, February 2021, if COVID's not as crazy, let's start trying to have kids. As that time was starting to come around, we were both like, oh my God, are we really going to do this? And then I feel like I was going to the bathroom one day. I was kind of tracking my cycle. It was my first month tracking my cycle. And I just felt this tap on my shoulder, no joke. Like, the way I explain it is like this knowledge comes into my head. It's very strange. But I felt this little soul be like, I'm ready. Let's go. Like, it's now. Let's do it. And it was Hugo. And I felt crazy. But then I actually kind of went crazy, and I became obsessed with having a baby. I was in this movement class through a theater company that I really, really like, and I've done a play with them here in town. And it was like a virtual movement class, but we were doing these exercises where it's hard to explain, but you would use physical efforts and go through a thought emotionally using those efforts in your brain, basically. And I would just think of this baby that I did not have yet, that was not even in my body, and cry. it was so weird. It was like sorrowful crying, like longing for this baby. And I thought it just meant, oh, I'm just really ready to be a mom now. Like, this is the time. Now I look back and I'm like, oh, I knew. My body like knew. It was so weird. But I became really obsessed and was like, Adam, let's go. And he was like, why are you so obsessive? And so I don't know. I felt a connection with him from the beginning. And then weird things throughout my pregnancy, like when I was 9 weeks pregnant, I thought it was a boy from the beginning. That little soul that tapped me on my shoulder felt like just like a male presence. And, I didn't know if they'd actually be a boy. But at 9 weeks pregnant, my friend had sent me this podcast about the patriarchy. And I was doing yoga stretches or something, like listening to it. And the woman on the podcast talked about little boys being stripped from their mothers too soon, like as a metaphor for society because we don't nurture men. And I just, before my brain knew what was happening, I started bawling, like bawling. And I, at the time, took it to mean like, oh, I'm having a boy, because I grew up with all girls. I actually was not about having a boy when I was younger. I was like, I don't get boys. They're gross. I don't know what their deal is. But then when I thought I was about to have a son, I became so connected to that idea. And so I thought that's what it meant. But now I'm like, oh, that's another like weird sign. And I've always believed in reincarnation, even though I grew up in sort of a Christian tradition. My parents didn't like make us choose one or the other. My mom was Catholic. My dad was Mormon. They didn't really practice much. So I kind of got to do what I wanted with my spirituality. And I always believed since I was a kid that we are reincarnated multiple times or whatever. So I just got this feeling that my baby was this old soul. And I even would say to people, like, I don't know what I'm going to teach my kid because they know more than me. Wow. Like, they're wiser than I am. They've lived more lives than I have. Like, I have this friend who will always say about people like, oh, she's brand new, or, you've been around kind of thing about, like, their souls. And you can always tell when someone's new,
Yeah.
And so I felt like I was newer than him, I guess. Yeah. And so I was like, I don't know what I'm going to teach my baby. And then when he was breech, I would, like, talk to him and be like, come on, are you going to turn? I remember this one day I was in the shower and I was like, I know I'm being crazy and super controlling and it's probably turning you off, but are you going to turn head down? Just give me like a tap if you are. And I got a little kick. No joke. But the biggest joke was on me because we did an ECV, which is an external cephalic version with him at like 38 weeks. And it worked, but then he flipped back. So he didn't lie. Right? He did turn.
Wow.
And I remember saying, like, this better not be the first time you lie to me. But we just had this weird soul connect. I shouldn't say weird. It was beautiful. Little soul connection. And it just, I don't know. It started from that very first tap on the shoulder. And I felt it the whole time, just this connection to him. And, I was very sorrowful a lot during my pregnancy, even though I was joyful too. It was like my body knew. Like, I would sing to him to try to get him to move. And I would sing You Are My Sunshine, which is kind of a terrible song anyway, because when you get to the part, like, don't take my sunshine away, I just would bawl, cry. And I couldn't, like, put together the nursery. I was depressed. Like, my mom had to come help me with all that stuff because I just couldn't do it. I did not want a baby shower. I was such a brat about it, honestly. Like, people in my family were like, why are you being a brat about your mom throwing you a baby shower? I was like, it doesn't feel right. There's something about it. Like, cutesy, ooh, baby is, like, not me. Not me at all. Not my kid. I don't feel it. Like, I wanted to wear black all the time. I remember my dad's cousin at my baby shower was showing us these, like, birth cakes. I don't know if you've seen these, where it looks like a baby's coming out of a vagina.
Yeah,
it's like jarring.
Yes.
I was like, that is the cake I want at my shower. It was like always morbid. I was, it felt more real.
Yeah.
And then I did another movement class with the same theater company, but we were in person. It was like when COVID wasn't as crazy. And they played some song. I don't remember what it was, but we were, moving to it, and it was about, like, I can't wait to meet you or be with you. And I just cried. And I just felt this longing to meet and be with my baby. And it felt sad. It didn't feel, I don't know. It's almost like I knew it wasn't going to happen. But I can't explain it because, of course, intellectually, I never actually thought that because how could I get through the pregnancy if I really believed that?
Mm-hmm.
But I also, like, never had a dream about him. And after my friend got pregnant, she had all these dreams about her baby. And I was like, oh, I never had a dream. That, and I didn't really think of him as an infant ever. I just was focused on pregnancy. And my mom even said that. She was like, you were so focused on being pregnant and, like, turning him and getting through the pregnancy and all the things about pregnancy that I was even worried that you weren't, you know, preparing yourself to have an infant.
Mm-hmm.
But even Adam said he had this weird feeling like he would have more time to prepare.
Yeah.
And so the day, like, basically the night before he died, the day before he died, I had gone to see my new doctor because I was supposed to give birth at the birth center. And so actually, I mean, even at 20 weeks, my first, like, my anatomy ultrasound, anatomy scan, whatever, we found out that Hugo had a marginal cord insertion, which just means the cord connects to the edge of the placenta instead of the middle. And what's crazy is we knew someone who had a stillbirth like a day before I found that out, I want to say, like one of Adam's coworkers. And I didn't know her that well, but I just remember grieving for her for like an hour about it and then being like, I can't think about this anymore. But it made me extremely nervous. And, you know, of course I didn't think, oh, that's going to happen to me. But it put it on my radar, which I know a lot of people actually had never heard of it before it happened to them. But I remember thinking, like, this woman has to give birth to her baby now. And I was like, that is the worst thing I could ever think of. So actually, we didn't even really do anything for them or say anything to them because I was like, what do you do and what do you say? So I'm kind of like those people that I now hate, you know, or not hate, that I now go like, ugh. But I just remembered, like, the birth center wouldn't have given me an ultrasound in the third trimester, but they were like, if you're worried about marginal cord, it's usually okay, but if you're worried, you can have a third trimester ultrasound. And I was like, okay, good to know. And then when I was in my birth class, like, our birth class teacher asked, what's your greatest fear? And I remember that I, at the time, was worried about him being breech and everything, and I was trying to pursue a pelvic birth breech because I had done all this research on it and it really wasn't as risky as people think. And if you're with someone who actually knows how to do it, it's good. And I was like, I really want, you know, a pelvic birth because I want to be able to hold my baby right after. I want all these things. I want them to get the microbiome, like all the, you know, I was kind of on the natural train. I've been very humbled. But I remember saying, like, besides stillbirth, my greatest fear is that, you know, like, if I have my baby breached, then their head will get stuck and it'll be my fault kind of thing. But I said besides stillbirth. Like, I remember saying that. And why? Like, why did I say that? It's crazy. So that was really my greatest fear, but I couldn't even face it, you know?
So interesting. Yeah,
it's just weird because everybody else's fear was like, oh, I'm afraid that, like, I won't progress and I'll have to go to the hospital from the birth center. Or I'm afraid, you know, that I won't be able to handle the pain or something. Like, mine was like death. So, yeah. And really, like, my fear of him getting stuck was death also, but I couldn't, like, name it.
So then, unfortunately, that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point were you like, holy shit, and you started putting things together?
Yeah, I think kind of right after. Yeah. I mean, basically the way that you know, some days I don't think of things spiritually and I'm just mad and sad. And of course we all have those days where just you can't see it through that lens. But I think my whole experience giving birth to him even was so like there were so many things that happened that felt like he was guiding us through it. I mean, basically we met with this breech doctor the day before he died. And of course, you know, they only look at the heartbeat for like 3 seconds. And nobody had told me about count the kicks. Nobody had said, I mean, the birth center did teach about counting kicks, but I didn't know, if they change in strength or, you know, type of kick. He was super active, baby, like crazy active abstract movement. Like he liked the movement classes I took and tried to be just like them. Of course. But, so I never really thought about it. But I remember like the day before he died, he was just kicking me because he was breeched. So his head was like on my left side and his feet were on my right side. And his like what I guess would be his probably left foot or I don't know which foot, but it was always kicking my rib really hard. And that was pretty much the only movement he was doing that day, which if I had known, maybe I would have said something. I don't know. But then basically he was super frantic the night before he died. And I had read in some article, because I Googled the shit out of everything, that stillbirth parents like remembered frantic movement. So I would always get nervous when he moved like that. But this time I was like, oh, I think it's okay because he's done that before. And I just thought it was cute. And now when I look back at that, I'm like, oh, he was probably in distress. That's awful. And he was like that. And anyway, then I went to sleep and basically just, I've heard other people say this, like I slept way too well, you know, because I would get up and pee and come back to sleep and I would feel him moving. And I didn't, and I fell asleep, but I thought, oh, I'm so tired because I'm not sleeping well anyway, because I would always be like hyper focused on his movements, trying to see if he was turning. And so I remember waking up just with this sense of dread, and Adam had been waking up kind of being all cutesy, like, good morning, baby, good morning, wife, whatever, you know, cute. And he, I think, wanted me to sleep, so he got up and didn't say anything and just left the room to go do his work. He was working from home that day. And I just remember this sense of dread. I get up, and it's so crazy because I think I knew something was wrong, but I didn't. Nobody had ever said, like, advocate for yourself, or if anything seems wrong, do something about it right away. It just felt like I was trying not to be a pain in the ass because I didn't want to be a crazy first-time mom and all these things. People pleaser version of me, I guess. And so I called my doctor's office after, like, eating and all these things, and they were just like, oh, drink something sugary. And when I did, I swear he headbutted me twice. And it was crazy because I remember Adam, like, saw it, and I cried because I was, like, feeling reassured. And then I didn't feel anything else ever again. And it was like I took a shower. I thought he was like shifting and moving, but really now I know he was probably just falling. And it's just like, anyway, but after I took a shower, I sat in my bed, and like this female cardinal came up to the door of our bedroom, which it has like a clear glass on it. And my grandmother on my mother's side, we've always seen as like a cardinal. Cardinals like represent her. And it was this female cardinal and hopped up to the door and like looked at me. And it was just so bizarre for a bird to do that, you know? And I remember thinking either that's my grandma telling me that like everything's gonna be fine, or she's like here to take my baby away. And that was like this doomsday thought that I was like, you're crazy. That's not possible. And then I called my doctor's office again, and they told me to wait 2 hours, see if I got 10 kicks in 2 hours, which now I'm like, what? Because he would move 10 times in a minute, you know, a lot of the time. And so it's haunting to think like how long I waited. But I had a nail appointment. I went to the nail appointment. I thought I like felt like an insane person. I couldn't focus. This poor woman who was doing my nails. I'll never go there again. Maybe never get my nails done again. But she was like, what color do you want? And I was like, black, because it was about to be Halloween. I always thought Hugo was going to be born on Halloween. I just felt like he was that type of kid. And she was like, are you sure? Like, black? And I remember thinking again, like, is that a bad omen?
Wow.
And I mean, now that I'm, you know, a year out, I'm like, oh, Hugo probably thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Because I just think that's his sense of humor. But, yeah, I don't know. It's like I knew, but I just didn't like follow my intuition. I was trying to live in that place where like bad things don't happen, you know?
I've had this conversation so many times, and it's just a common thing between all of us, where a sense of just not denial, but your brain doesn't go that way because it's either doesn't think that's possible or it doesn't want to go there yet because you think it could be true.
Right.
And we've all had this like feeling of just no urgency, just kind of like, well, this isn't right. But my common sense is saying probably everything's fine because everybody around you is saying it's fine.
Right. Because they're like, this doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah. No one ever says, you know, that there's a chance your baby could just die in your belly, a fully formed, full-term baby.
Yeah.
Which, this is another thing. It's like, this isn't a miscarriage. This isn't a, pregnancy loss. This is a full-term baby who could survive outside the womb that just dies.
Yeah.
Because something's wrong and we don't know.
Whew, I want to take just a little time out to tell you about something that I do like, and it is wine. I like to enjoy a glass or two here or there, especially when I'm having these types of conversations. But what I don't like is junk in my wine. I know you feel me. So I drink Scout and Cellar clean crafted wines. These grapes are sourced from all over the world and have no toxic pesticides, no artificial processing aids, and no added sugar. Can you believe it? They're also low in sulfites and absolutely delicious. I have them delivered right to my home, and I love them. See for yourself and go to www.scoutandcellar.com/Catherine Lazar to order your clean crafted wine now. I hope you enjoy this. And of course, please drink responsibly. And now back to my conversation with Jennica.
And then they treat it like, oops, it's so rare. This is just a freak accident. It's not. And that's that drives me crazy. And it's because they should be looking into what happened. So how on earth, if they're not talking about it, can we possibly know to be looking out for these things where this is going to happen?
Right.
So I know you're going to kick yourself for your whole life. I'm kicking myself, and where my dark spirals come are those exact things. It's the 36-week appointment, which they're now saying was my 37 and a half, not 36. And it was like, why didn't I just say the words, why isn't he moving that much this morning? Or looking at the ultrasound, they did an emergency ultrasound because they wanted to check his size. What are you guys looking for? I was on it for 3 seconds. Why didn't the word just come out of my mouth? And what would have happened if they did? And to be honest with you, based off the care that we're getting and based off the story you're telling me, they wouldn't have said shit. They probably would have just been like, you're fine.
I mean, straight up, even when I went into the office, I remember telling Adam on the way, like, if something's wrong with this baby, I will not survive. That's what I said. And I get there, and I think, I still didn't believe that anything could really be wrong. But when they checked, 2 of the, nurses there tried to find his heartbeat, couldn't, acted like they were just bad at it, which I know.
Oh, my God, you haven't told me this. This is exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, because I think they're not supposed to say anything, But they were like, don't freak out. I was like, are you kidding me? And I remember Adam, trying to look at the heartbeat, and he was kind of, giving me a thumbs up. Yeah, I think they found it. It was just, and I was in this little room, and then they were like, you know what? Let me get someone else to try. They try. Oh, I don't know. I'm not very good at this either. It might just not be working. Let's get you into the doctor, and have him look on the ultrasound. And then I went in, and he was just, Adam said, because I could not look, he was going over and over where the heart should be and just shook his head. And then showed us and was like, see, that's where the heart should be, and it's not moving. And because there was no sound on their machine. And so, and I just remember my body, again, that, when I was listening to that podcast, it reacted before my brain could comprehend what was going on. And I was screaming, no, 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 crying, saying, what did I do? What did I do? Adam's coming over, grabbing my face. You didn't do anything. This is not your fault. And, the doctor was saying the same thing. But my brain was going, this is a joke, right? This isn't real. You're going to wake up. This is ridiculous. There's no way. And I remember, other people have talked about that movie, Return to Zero. And that's something I really appreciated about Minnie Driver's performance was her, laughing. Because sort of in my head, it felt like that. It was like, what? What? Yesterday my baby was fine. I was just getting ready to wait till my baby was going to come. And now you're telling me my baby died? But it was almost then I went into get shit done mode. I sit up and I'm crying and everything. I'm pretty sure they cleared out the waiting room and everything so we could leave. But I just was I remember his maid nurse coming in and telling me she had lost a baby, and she's like, you're going to get through it, and then he was holding my hand. I don't even know. And I was like, I have to go deliver this baby, don't I? And he was like, yep, you're going to have to go through all the pain and get none of the reward. That's what he told me.
Wow. Okay.
And I was like, and he said, do you want a second opinion and all this stuff? And I was like, no, if I go to the hospital, aren't they going to look? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. He's like, do you want to wait a night? And I can see why people would, but I was just like, I cannot, because I already was so anxious every night, like trying to feel his movements, that like going to bed knowing he was gone, like there's no way. I like, no. So I was like, no, get me to the hospital. So yeah, it was all very quick and almost casual. Like, it wasn't casual. They all acted so sad and everything. And I know my doctor was truly sad, but it just happened so fast. And it was like any other appointment. And it was like, oh, here's the information. I don't know.
Wild.
It's crazy. But I knew, because I had known someone who had a stillbirth, I knew I was going to have to deliver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not something they tell you.
No, and I'm the one who brought it up. That's the
Yeah.
weird thing. And then basically, I remember just getting in the car. We were, crying, and like poor Adam drove home, and he kept like collapsing into the steering wheel. And I'd be like, don't, like, we can't die too right now. Let's, But like the stuff that goes through your head right away, it's like crazy. It's like, we both were like, we got to have another baby. Like that was immediate.
Immediately.
And I felt like such
Unreal.
a terrible person. And also because I'm an actor, I have been through a lot of rejection. And it was like my coping skill was to think, oh, this one wasn't meant for me.
Wow.
And that's like the first thing I thought, because
Yeah.
it was just my body, like the way I cope,
Yeah.
And then I remember later being like, that is insane. That's not this situation. Like, this baby wasn't meant for me. Like, I'll catch the next one. Like, it's so messed up that I don't know. It just was.
You're not alone on that. That creeps into my head even now. Like,
Yeah.
even like, oh, well, guess it wasn't my time, what the thoughts that go through our heads. And that's why I'm always like a preacher of like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, we all have these really invasive thoughts that are just, we are very aware that they're inaccurate, they're not real, but we still go there. And it was funny because I had a conversation. Funny, I love how I use that word.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with another lost mom yesterday, and she was saying that like going through her therapy, her EDMR, and doing all that stuff, and digging through her grief and processing her trauma, she started to uproot earlier things in her life that were still lingering, causing this trauma to take on a different form. And I thought that was like super interesting, because I've had a series of heartbreaks in my life consistently. And I say heartbreaks, it was things that I really wanted to go a certain way that didn't, and it changed the course of my life when they didn't. And so I was like, oh, here we go again. Like, that was my brain saying, you just can't have it all. You just can't have that happy ending. You can't have it because that's not your story, because you haven't had it so far. Why would you have it now? So our brains are going to just, they're programmed to think a certain way. And why would the death of our baby change that?
Right.
And so there's nothing, I mean, we do some crazy shit. We think things, like we say things like.
It's like normally when you watch movies, I'm like, yeah, that's not how people react in trauma. I mean, it's, I was like telling work, oh, I can't finish my work today, like over Slack
answering
in
calls.
the car. Yeah. I canceled because I had made a nail appointment for that day and a toenail appointment for the next day. Like, I had to text them, and they were like, so I hope everything's okay. I was like, it's not. Thanks. That's what I said. And then get this, and then we're calling people, of course, and telling them. And I mean, I remember like the words coming out of my mouth, like, we lost the baby. And it just was like so surreal to me, and I'm just crying. But then the hospital I was about to head to calls me, their billing department, to give me my estimate for labor and delivery.
Oh my God, when you told me that, I was like, oh.
I was like, oh, I forgot I told you that already. But I was like, oh, bad timing. We're actually headed there now because, our baby died and we have to deliver. And she was mortified, this poor woman. And I was like, it's not your fault. It's just like what timing that was. We were literally in the car. We head home, grab our stuff, head to the hospital. And this is like what I was saying when everything felt kind of guided. I mean, I feel, and I think it just makes me feel better too, but I really do. The way I see it is like my intuition is the stuff that feels good and the first thought that comes to my head. And then when you overthink and, think the opposite and it feels bad, that's probably not true. But it's like, and my sister said this. I have an older sister who's like a therapist, and she told me that's your thinking brain and that's not your intuition. But my intuition was telling me like he was breached so you would stop being busy and focus on him, because I spent so much time with him while he was breech, like walking, swimming, like feeling him move, talking to him, all the things. And then I think he needed us to be at the hospital we went to, because if we had been at the birth center, we would have ended up at a different hospital that wasn't going to be as good, I mean, frankly. And then having like this OB who was a little more medical, I think was helpful. But we get to the hospital, and also like the hospital we went to works with Rachel's Gift, which is amazing. I mean, they're amazing. And the woman who confirmed he was dead was like a midwife, and she had been trained with Rachel's Gift. And I was like, Adam and I still will be like, was she real or was she an angel? Because this woman, I swear, I didn't know how much I needed her, but she, you know, she did an ultrasound and she confirmed, and she said, the way she said it was, yeah, I'm so sorry, but your baby has died. That's what she said. And I remember thinking in the moment how harsh that was, but I also realized like, oh, she needed to say it like that, because if she didn't, maybe I would think it would be okay. You know?
Yeah.
And she needed to be like very clear about it, because you know how people say there's no heartbeat?
Yeah, I'm like, so what does that mean? You're going to resuscitate? Are you going to do some surgery?
Like,
what's
could
going
the
on here?
heartbeat start again?
Yeah,
what's
what's
the
happening?
deal? Yeah, no, she like made it very clear. And then I was, you know, freaking out. She grabs my forehead. I just remember, because I have bangs, and she kept pushing them out of my face and just like holding my forehead. And she said, you know what? This baby's always going to be your baby. She's like, people will not want to talk to you about your baby because they'll think it'll make you sad, but you talk about your baby as much as you want. That's what she said to me. All these things that like we need to hear, but I had no context for yet.
She's an angel.
Yeah, and it was amazing. And then I remember
you
like
had no context. You're like, what, bitch?
Yeah, I was like, what do you mean? Like, of course this baby will always be my baby. Like, what do you mean people won't want to talk to me about my baby? It just didn't. But I needed it so much. And she just like comforted me and was just amazing. Then we never saw her again. But she did tell me about like, you know, the Molly bear, how it's the weight. She's like, you'll get a bear. It's the weight of your baby, all these things. And I remember after labor being like, where's that bear? What kind of doll or bear are we getting? Like, where's that? I want to hold it. Where is it? You know, it actually took me forever to get it because the hospital, whatever, there's lots of complaints. But anyway.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, but then I remember like, you know, they induced me and I was in starting labor, and I sat there, and I was supposed to have a doula. My best friend is a doula, and I had told her not to come because I was afraid I would never want to see her again. You know,
point. Yeah.
And it was so anyway, I get this text from my birth class teacher who I'd gotten really close with because Hugo was breech and I was a nutcase, and she was worried about me. So she would have these like special sessions with me. And we also jive well. Like, I love her. But she was like, the head of the birth center and I want to send you a doula for free. Would that be okay? And I remember hearing this voice like when he tapped on my shoulder and it said, accept gifts. Very clearly. That's it. Accept gifts. And I was like, because, you know, I'm kind of like, oh, I'm a warrior. I don't need. And I was sort of like, I'm just going to go through the pain of labor and feel it all and whatever. Everything sucks, you know. And it reminded me like, no, I don't need to be in pain on top of this pain that I'm already feeling. So I just said, yes, okay, you know, send the doula. This amazing woman comes, and she just, we'd never met her before. She turns off all the lights. She puts up string lights. There was this like colostrum liquid gold poster with a baby on it. And I was like, I hate that. I want to punch that poster. And she's like, I'm covering it. She covered it with paper and wrote, "You are strong." Oh, in pencils, but it's fine. I mean, I was like, I can kind of see what it says. But she was like, did you bring your labor ball? Of course, I had forgotten it because I didn't know where I even was when I went home. And she like brought it in. She had a TENS unit. So, you know, the contractions would be better. She was like, get out of that bed. I was like, I need to be hooked up to the monitors. And she's like, why? No, you don't.
Yikes. Oh my gosh.
You know, she's like, no, F that, get up. She had me like labor in different positions. For 10 hours, I labored unmedicated. And it was so important to me to feel empowered in birth. That was like basically my main goal, right? Was to feel empowered. And she gave me that. And I might not have said yes to it if Hugo hadn't. I really think he helped me. He was like, you need to do this, you know? And it was like her, and then, I mean, she was amazing because Hugo was breech and I was at a teaching hospital. All these people tried to come in and watch when I started pushing, and she basically had to keep them from coming in the room.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, I couldn't even believe that was about to happen. I was like, what kind of person are you to just come in and watch just because he's breech? I mean, like, my doctor taught a resident during the time, and I wanted that because I was really mad that there were no options for people with breech babies, but besides C-section or nothing, you know. But there were just, a lot of like beautiful things that happened where we felt really taken care of. And because this doula was there, I mean, like Adam got a break. He was in trauma. I mean, he couldn't have supported me through all of that. I wasn't ready for a medicalized birth, so I didn't know how to advocate for myself as well as I should have, because I didn't want to even believe that I was going to have to do that. And so she like advocated for me. My first epidural failed. There were all these things that she helped with. And I don't know, I was like a comedian. I think I've told you that. Like during labor, I was just making jokes. And I remember my OB came in and was like all sad and somber. You know, he came in like the morning. I like went into labor at night and he like came in the morning and had his coffee or whatever. And he was like so somber. And I was like, what's up? Like, how you doing? I bet you're having a better day today than you did yesterday. Like, and Adam was like, Jennica, what the fuck? Like, why are you? And my doctor, like, after, like, when he was discharging us, was like, I thought you were dealing with it way too well. It's a little worried. And I was like, I was just coping, dude. Like, what am I supposed to do? But I'm just so grateful because, like, though I definitely have birth trauma, like, there's so much we could all get into. But I felt empowered, and I felt like the doula was such a gift. I mean, she kept us from having trauma on top of trauma. And I just...
Thank goodness. There's so much trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma.
Exactly. And I have like funny moments from my labor. I have, you know, I just remember feeling powerful, like a powerful mom. And this was the last thing I could do for him. I mean, now I know it's not the last thing, but it felt like that at the time.
Yeah. And what do you mean by that? You know it's not the last thing you could do for him.
Well, I feel like, you know, all lost parents, we parent our kids forever, and it's like lifelong. Like one of your guests said, it's life work. I really liked that because, I think there's so much we can still do for them, you know, even just like keeping their memory alive and talking about them. And every time I see a cardinal, I'm like, Hugo, and I talk to the cardinal, you know, and that's the other thing. I just feel this still spiritual connection with him where I don't feel like he's gone. And even like, I think I've talked to you, I have all this guilt that comes up sometimes about we decided to do hospital disposition. So we didn't cremate him or bury him. And part of it was Adam didn't want him to be alone when he was cremated. He thought that was like terribly sad. And I mean, if you're listening to this, whatever you did is perfect. So don't please, because I think it's just like what you have to do at the time. But I also think there needs to be like more people there so you don't regret what you did. Because that literature they give you, we didn't read it. I mean, I don't even know. But I remember we decided to do that, and it felt so right to both of us. And Adam and I did not disagree at all. And I just remember feeling very clearly in the moment that he was not in his body anymore. Like I felt him there with us, and that body was, I mean, God, so precious to me. But I just knew he wasn't in there anymore. And so I was like, you know, it just felt wrong energetically for this baby and this soul that I had birthed for me to like hold him to me, like have his ashes or have his body to me. I felt the need to like release him. And, you know, they like, if you're not a lost parent, this is going to sound morbid, but you know, they do like group cremation at hospitals. And so Adam was like, he never got to meet anybody in this life. Like, you know, I know. And I read this horoscope later on when I was spiraling about it. Cause I think I read a bunch of books at first. And I think I read a book where someone was like, I'm so glad I didn't do hospital disposition. And I was like, why? Like, I'm a terrible mother. So I looked up like this horoscope of I'm a Cancer. It was like Cancer moms, Libra babies. And it was like, as a Cancer, you're going to want to hold on to your baby and not let them go, like nurture them too much kind of. But you're Libra, because he was born on October 21st. So he's a Libra. And they were like, he or she will want to go out and meet people and you have to let them.
Interesting.
And I was like,
interesting.
I was right. Like, I don't know. It's just
your intuition. Yeah, you just know your child. You knew your child already.
Yeah, I had to follow my gut, and it's like there's so many things you can regret, but I don't know. We had to just follow our instincts at the time, and I think looking back too, I have to create a story that it was the right thing because what else do we have, you know? I mean, sure, if I look back, I'm like, yeah, I kind of wish we hadn't like said bye to him so quickly. It was like 6 hours. Luckily, the birth center also sent us someone who takes photos. And at first we said no. And then it was like one of the midwives' friends, and she's like, no, she's insisting. And I'm not going to make you, but you should really do it. And I was like, okay, you know, accept gifts. I'm going to, yeah, sure. And thank God, because these photos are like beautiful. I was so tired and just like in pain. I had a 3rd-degree tear. Like, I didn't really want to hold him because I was afraid I was going to drop him because I felt like so weak. Mm-hmm. And he was so fragile and his skin was torn and, you know, his body was deteriorating over time. And that was, I mean, so horrific. Traumatic. Yeah, horrific. Just like your sweet little baby. And I mean, I remember holding the back of his head and being able to feel like his bones, you know? It was just awful. And because of her, I held him. I kissed him. I took photos with him. Like, I wouldn't have had that time. And she had us put him in, like, clothes we had brought, or, like, a blanket we had brought, a hat we had brought. And I don't know if we would have done that. We were just out of our minds, you know?
Yeah. No, it's true. You have to have some guidance. Otherwise, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That happened with us, too. I was just like, get me out of here. Like, that's not my baby anymore. He's gone. That's just his little body. And his body was a little torn up from, I mean, people, we are guilty as well of posting, you know, doctored photos or like edited photos, but some stillborns just are kind of banged up because of the lack of, you know, the blood pooling and the lack of circulation that they have inside the womb. So, you know, I was looking at him and I was just like, I got to get out of here. Like, this is no longer him. He's not in this body anymore. And you can't really process that. It's like, oh my God, that's my child. I just gave birth. I'm like joyous.
Yeah.
My body is like so happy. My brain is like, oh my God, I have to get the hell out of here. I'm in flight mode. I just like this. Let's wrap this up.
Yes.
So I'm thankful that somebody was like, you need to do these things.
Yes.
Because then you would really have regretted just dipping out and not holding him or anything like that. And so, but to your point, the hospital should have more detailed information saying, you're not going to want to do this, but you're going to do this. We're going to assist you in doing this. Almost like a protocol, like not even asking, like this is a protocol, because some of us just walk out of there without getting any opportunity for certain things. And, you know, it's so unfortunate.
Like when you hear about people who don't hold them and everything, like, of course I understand that instinct.
Of course,
But I just feel so sad if they regret it at all, you know?
They probably thought that was what's best for them at the time. And
Absolutely.
then it's like, it's crazy because we make these decisions based off how we feel at the time, all the information that we're given. But we are in the definition of shock and trauma mode.
Yep.
Nobody should be making decisions about anything. So that's why like a protocol should be in place. Because I was even like, I'm not sure. We discussed, I'm not sure I want to hold him. I don't know what this is. But then as soon as he was born, I was like, give me that child. Like, that's mine.
Yes.
But I was not sure of what I was going to do. So it was changing every minute.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that you got that opportunity. I know some people don't. And I know that's probably, you know, if it was their decision and they're still happy about it, that's great, you know?
And
if you know, I'm sitting here saying, I wish I had video. Like, I wish I had video holding him, you know? I took it another notch now.
Yes.
Like, not only I wasn't sure about photos because they felt weird, but I was like, I should have taken damn video now. I should have had a friggin' cinematographer in there, like a wedding video.
Well, because it does feel, I mean, when they're born, it's so sad, but it's so amazing. I mean, I remember I got photos from right after he was born from the hospital, and they're, you know, rough angles and stuff, but I thought I was smiling, and I'm not in the photos, but I thought I was because that's how I felt. And I remember they wanted to like swaddle him up and stuff, and I was like, no, I want skin to skin, like I was planning on. Like, that's what I want. So I had them put him on my chest, you know, and like those photos are so precious to me.
They're
and it
amazing,
was a beautiful time. I do wish I had video now. At the time, I think a nurse asked, like, should I take video? And we were like, no, what? No.
You know, we're always going to want more, and we're always going to want more time. And that's the hardest part. And the struggle now is getting over the trauma of the day of what happened, but also day to day with their absence. And we talk about it so much because it does ebb and flow and up and down. It's a roller coaster. And just when we're okay, we say to ourselves, this is temporary. We're not going to be okay for much longer. We're going to have another meltdown, you know?
Right.
But I'm hoping with time that switches, like, oh, this meltdown, just temporary. I'm going to be happy and joyous again in just a few minutes as soon as I get this out of my system.
Right.
But you're just 3 months ahead of me. And I think time is not going to heal us, but I think it's just going to give us more opportunity for more experiences and more moments of joy and learn how to actually deal with this. Like, that's what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, I think what I've realized lately is that when I deal with the reality of, like, my baby died and I still long for him like I did while I was even pregnant with him, and that makes me so sad. And I think when I think about all the things I wish I could be doing with him and all the things I'm missing, that's when I get really sad. But that's why, like, my spiritual connection with him is so important, because it does help me. I don't think I'll ever heal at all, but, like, I know I'll always have this layer of sadness underneath whatever I'm feeling that I could access so easily if I really wanted to, you know? But
yeah, we don't need a T Swift song, right? You texted me about that damn song literally seconds after I just laid into a non-lost mom for, like, I'm like, why are you sending me this? What are you doing? Like, why would I do this on purpose? Did they send you the
song or just the idea?
She was
of
like,
the song?
I really think that you should listen to this Taylor Swift song, Bigger Than the Sky. And she was like, I think it's about a miscarriage, and I really think if you need a good cry to listen to it. I'm like, I literally was sitting there staring at my computer because I was already having kind of a rough hour. And I was like, why? No. The last thing I want to do is spiral out of control right now. So I was just like, nope, not for me. And then I felt bad because I was like, this is not going to happen. And then you texted immediately and I was like, why? Why do I have to listen to this?
I'm so sorry.
Hilarious.
I'm just like one of those people. I'm a glutton for punishment sometimes. And when I've, like, I don't know. I about 3 months out, I started looking for songs that were specifically about stillbirth or baby loss and stuff like that. It was like when I started, because I'm not on social media, I was like, Pinterest is the only thing I'm going to look at. Yeah. And so I started delving into grief Pinterest. I, like, you know, hesitantly typed in stillbirth on Pinterest. And then all this stuff came up and there's all these memes and it's amazing. It's so validating. And so, like, anytime somebody asks me how I am, sometimes I just send them one of those because they say it better than I do. Amazing. You know? Yeah. But so sometimes I just need to, like, let it out because I'll feel it build up because I generally I don't grieve in front of other people. So, like, if I'm with family, or I'll grieve in front of Adam or my therapist, but most of the time I kind of keep it in. It's just like, I think it's me taking care of people like I've always done my whole life. I can't help it. And I don't like when people hug me when I start crying because I'm like, no, I want to cry. Like, I want to feel this right now. And when I grieve him, it's, like, ugly. Like, when I think about, I think I told you there was this one time it was, like, my first time going out of the house after he was born. And I was in the car. I think Adam just had to run an errand, so I went with him. And I decided to pump to donate, and so I was, like, pumping for 6 weeks. And so I had my pump in the car, and I had to pump because my boobs were, like, killing me. It was, like, right after I'd gotten up, and Adam was like, let's go out. And it's raining, and I'm sitting there in the car while he's doing his errand, and I'm bawling, screaming. Like, when I'm sure everybody kind of has this, but I will just scream, like, give me my baby back and stuff like that. It's really, really sad. It sucks, right? And it's like, but that's what I was doing in the car with a pump, 2 pumps on my boobs, like a towel over it.
I'm telling you, when you write your screenplay, this shit's going in. We've got so many, like, this is what it looks like.
Oh my God. And we had gotten this new bed frame, right? And Adam or I can't remember who, like, tripped over it and it broke. And this was, I don't know, weeks after Hugo or something. And I lost it. Just fell to the ground, bawled. Adam had to, like, walk away from me because he was like, this is too much for me right now. I can't. And I was like, obviously this is not about the bed.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But just stuff like that, you know? And I remember thinking, okay, I really need to grieve through whatever I'm feeling. That'll, like, help me. And so, and I'm lucky I got to, you know, I worked from home anyway, so I got as much time as I kind of needed to grieve. But when I would feel really angry, I would, like, have a fit in my kitchen and, like, punch the wall and, like, scream at God. And, you know, I don't know if I even believe in God the way that, you know, God, but whatever, higher power, whatever it is, scream, like, why would you do this to me? Like, fuck you. Oh, yeah. Punch and kick. And so that's the way I grieve. So, like, I don't grieve in front of people. So then sometimes when I'm around a lot of people, I need to let it out. So then I'll, use a song or something.
Yeah, no, that totally works.
Oh, God.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to pretend to wrap this up, but I feel like I'm going to just book a second one because we didn't even get into Bowie and all this stuff.
I knew this was going to happen. I talk way too much. I seriously do. It's because all my brain works in like tiny details and I can't shorten it. I don't know what it is.
It's amazing. Well, no, we got the story. We're good. I mean, I think it's awesome. So in case we don't book a second one, final words. Keep it short.
Oh, my God.
Just an hour goes by so fast.
It really does. And when you're listening to it,
when we have coffee dates, they're like 3.5 hours.
And they feel so short.
They're so short.
Oh, my God. I know. Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't talk as much about all the intuition after, but since I talk a lot about intuition, I think my final words is just to follow, like, go inward as much as you can. Really try to feel what's there and act based on that rather than based on what other people are saying or what you think you should do. And this is like when you're talking to people about it or just if you need to grieve or not, like what's really going on inside you. Because I think you are the expert in what you need all the time.
Absolutely.
All the time. And so if you don't want to go to that party, don't go. You know, if inside it's saying, read this book, read it. If it's saying, don't read it, throw that book in someone's face. I don't know.
No, it's so true. Because there's so many, I should do this and I should do that. You don't have to do shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of party, we're about to go meet 6 other lost moms for happy hour. Woo-hoo!
I put it in my phone as, quote, happy hour.
The darkest hour.
The dark.
All right, girl. Thanks for doing this. We'll do it again for
Yeah.
sure.
Sorry I talk so much.
No, I love it.
That's all for this episode of the At a Total Loss podcast. If you'd like to help other lost moms benefit from our stories, please share, rate, and comment wherever you are listening. Thank you for being the strong mama that you are. And remember, when things have you at a total loss, we're here to help you find the light in the darkness. Take care, lost moms.